Hey everybody, this is Erica, and this is my Unit 3 discussion post. Our first question we were asked to do was to name and briefly describe two counseling approaches that are based on a wellness model. As I was looking through the book, I wasn't exactly sure if we were looking up like a different counseling method or approach. Everything that I found online was kind of like a subcategory to the indivisible self or the wheel of wellness. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Wheel of Wellness and the Indivisible Self. The Wheel of Wellness was created first. It's a holistic theoretical model of wellness that illustrates characteristics associated with healthy people. It follows individual psychology and the Alderian approach. It has 5 major life tasks: spirituality, self-direction, work and leisure, friendship, and love. And of the 5, spirituality is your number 1 priority. It also has 12 sub-tasks associated with the 5 major tasks. It also mentions that life tasks are influenced by life forces such as your family, community, education, religion, and government. And of the life forces and life tasks combined, they're influenced by external global factors, both natural and man-made. Now, unfortunately, after gathering all the data and doing some statistical research, the Wheel of Wellness was proven to not be statistically significant. But from the data they collected from the Wheel of Wellness, they developed the Indivisible Self model, which is also empirically supported, grounded in the Alderian concept and a holistic theoretical approach. This one helps clients assess personal wellness and evaluate choices that promote wellness, which is different from the Wheel of Wellness because the Wheel of Wellness kind of set that bar of wellness that they think that people should, rise up and achieve. However, with the Indivisible Self, people are kind of setting that bar of wellness on their own, which makes sense because not everybody has the same view of what's absolute wellness, or same outlook on what wellness is itself. So I kind of think that's one of the contributions to how the Indivisible Self has been more successful than the Wheel of Wellness overall. The Indivisible Self, it consists of primary factors of global wellness, 5 secondary order factors, 17 third order factors, and 4 contextual scores. Of the secondary order factors, those are the creative self, the coping self, the social self, the essential self, and the physical self. And of the contextual factors are local content, global content, and chronometrical content. And if you guys want any further information on them, which I'm sure you probably read it already, but it's on page 179 through 181 of the Newsom and Gladding textbook. Next question was how the biopsychosocial model, how it works and how might a model positively impact the delivery of clinical mental health services. From this one, what I got was, instantly I thought, to understand the biopsychosocial model is you're understanding the biology of the brain, you're understanding the psychological portion and the social context. So all 3 of those combined are going to affect an individual in some way. It's important for counselors to be able to figure out when or which of those 3 contexts are, the problem area, because somebody who may seem really depressed may actually just be going through something socially traumatic or psychologically traumatic. Also, the number 1 purpose, though, is by understanding this whole biopsychosocial model, clinical mental health counselors are capable of effectively communicating and collaborating with other clinicians. For example, if an individual, again, is suffering from depression, a counselor has to be able to understand the overall brain chemistry of it, or recommend, hey, I think this person is sick or suffering from depression, and I recommend you prescribe them this. Or maybe vice versa, a clinician comes to you and, hey, I have this patient, I think you should work with him, refers them to you, and they explain to you they're on this medication, they're having this symptoms, or maybe they experienced a traumatic brain injury, and it's up to a counselor to be knowledgeable enough to understand what's going on with that client and help them effectively. Our next question asked was, from the podcast, how does the speaker define spirituality and religion? From what I got from what she said and from the book and the readings that I've done, religion is a social and public expression of belonging to an organized or institutional practice. In my opinion, in a way, people are capable of physically applying a label to themselves that identifies them with an affiliation in which they follow. Spirituality is different. It refers to an individual's unique and private beliefs that people use to guide them through life and make sense of the world. So in religion, normally you commit yourself to a higher being, or commit yourself to a different way of life, an organized way of life. In spirituality, you don't really have to commit yourself to exactly looking at like conforming to an institution or pleasing a higher power. It's kind of like pleasing yourself. What morals and passions make you make the decisions you do in life and guide you through your everyday activities? Next question asked was, what issues related to rural areas was discussed in relation to counseling persons with religious or spiritual issues? From the podcast and from actually living in a rural area myself, lack of resources is a big problem. If a counselor ever comes across someone in a rural area and they have maybe different beliefs than them, especially religious or spiritual beliefs that they're not familiar with or comfortable with discussing, they may want to refer them to someone else who could better aid them. Unfortunately, when you're living in a rural area, there may not be another counselor or professional within like a 40-mile or 50-mile radius to refer that person to. That's whenever it's the counselor's responsibility to kind of reach out into the community or surrounding communities and find, hey, maybe there's a potential religious group I can get this person involved with. Maybe I can find someone who works in an organization or somebody within the community who believes in the same things that this person does, and maybe I can get them together and kind of help them meet and, I guess, share commonalities. But unfortunately, sometimes that isn't possible either, and that's whenever the counselor kind of has to make a decision to reach out to external supervisors, external sources, to get opinions on, I guess, different matters that maybe somebody else hasn't experienced. You could also go on the internet and get on some credible sites and look up different ways that you can potentially help this person. And at the end of the day, if you're just really struggling, sometimes it's okay to just sit with your client and say, I really want to help you, but I've never been exposed to your particular religion, or I don't quite understand where you're coming from when you talk about this. Can you elaborate even more? Because I really want to know so I can help you. Or maybe just express genuine interest in what that person's explaining to you and their beliefs. Sometimes just actually sitting down and listening to somebody is definitely a release for them. Lastly, how important do you believe it is for a counselor to be able to discuss religious and spiritual issues with their client? When is it important, or why is it not important? I kind of touched on that a little bit in the last question, but I think it's really important that a counselor is capable of being open-minded and unbiased in any type of situation, whether it's an opinion that a client has, or whether it's their religious beliefs or maybe spiritual beliefs. Some people really use religion as a guide in their life, and they follow it to a T, whether it's healthy or not. And whether you agree with that, it's important that you remain open-minded and you still make an effort to help that person. Just because their beliefs are different than yours doesn't mean that you can't effectively help them, in a sense. And this is just my opinion, but I think every person is kind of spiritual to a degree. We all have our own passions that get us up every day and help us move through the world, make sense of everything. So we may not, I guess, recognize it right off the bat, but I mean, we all do have our own morals that maybe we've developed and grown up with over time, or passions that we hold dearly to us that keep us goal-oriented. I feel that we should be able to sit there and just really relate to people, and that's a big portion of our job. So hopefully I didn't rant too much. So have a great evening.